On the evening of January 13th, 2012, something felt terribly wrong aboard the luxury cruise ship Costa Concordia. Without warning, a powerful jolt shook the vessel. Glassware shattered. Plates slid from tables. Crew members stumbled as the deck trembled beneath their feet. Moments later, the lights went out. When emergency lighting finally flickered back on, passengers noticed something even more alarming. The ship was beginning to lean. Despite the growing unease, announcements echoed through the loudspeakers, assuring everyone that this was nothing more than a minor electrical issue, a temporary power outage. There was no danger. That announcement was a lie. The Costa Concordia, launched in 2006, was once the pride of Italian cruise engineering. Stretching nearly 290 meters long, with 17 decks and room for almost 5,000 passengers and crew, it was among the largest cruise ships in Europe. Its public decks boasted luxury at every turn. Dozens of bars, multiple restaurants, a multi-level theater, a spa, casino, nightclub, and a towering central atrium that cut through 9 decks. Even during its christening, superstition followed the ship. When the ceremonial champagne bottle struck the hull, it failed to shatter, a detail sailors often regard as a bad omen. Still, for years, the Concordia sailed without major incident. Until that night. The ship had departed Civitavecchia, near Rome, earlier that day on a 7-day Mediterranean cruise. On board were approximately 3,200 passengers and over 1,000 crew members, many of the passengers having boarded just hours earlier. In command was Captain Francesco Schettino, a seasoned officer who had risen through the ranks of Costa Cruises. That evening, Schettino had dined with a young companion before heading to the bridge to oversee what was known as a sail in tornado, sail by salute. These close shoreline passes were meant to impress passengers and people watching from land. But this time, something went terribly wrong. Due to miscommunication with the helmsman, worsened by language differences, the ship strayed dangerously close to the island of Giglio. Navigating by sight and distracted, Schettino failed to realize how far off course they had gone until it was too late. At the last moment, he ordered a sharp turn. The command came seconds too late. At 9:42 p.m., the Costa Concordia struck submerged rocks, tearing a massive gash along her hull. 5 watertight compartments were breached. Passengers felt the ship shudder violently as a grinding sound echoed through the decks, a noise some would later compare to an earthquake. In the dining rooms, furniture slid. Dishes crashed to the floor. Ironically, "My Heart Will Go On" played softly over the speakers as chaos erupted. Though emergency generators restored some lighting, the ship's engines were flooding. She could no longer be steered. Slowly, helplessly, the Concordia drifted, rotating nearly 180 degrees before grounding herself near the shore. Calls from terrified passengers began reaching the Italian Coast Guard. Incredibly, officials were repeatedly told there was no emergency, just a blackout. Only one tugboat was requested. On the bridge, Schettino knew the truth. Water was pouring in, but unwilling to face the consequences and fearful of panic, he delayed ordering an evacuation and delayed informing authorities of the severity of the situation. More than an hour passed. By the time a full rescue response began, the ship was already listing heavily. Passengers were confused and frightened. Many had not attended a safety drill. Some who reached their muster stations were ordered back to their cabins. Life jackets were dismissed as unnecessary. The ship was sinking, but no one was told. Just before 11:00 p.m., the order to abandon ship was finally given. By then, it was nearly too late. The severe tilt made half the lifeboats unusable. Panic spread as people fought for space on those that could still be launched. Crew members struggled, some unsure how to operate the lifeboat mechanisms at all. Others were forced to empty boats they couldn't safely lower. Fearing the ship might completely roll over, some passengers jumped into the freezing water and swam for shore. Among them was an elderly couple sharing a single life jacket. The husband gave it to his wife, who could not swim. She survived. He did not. As the evacuation continued, small boats ferried survivors back and forth. Local officials and rescuers joined the effort, including Giglio's deputy mayor, who boarded the listing ship and found no one in command. He helped coordinate evacuations himself. At 12:15 a.m., the Concordia suddenly shifted, rolling dramatically onto her side. Decks became steep slopes. Corridors turned into vertical shafts as seawater flooded through the ship. When helicopters arrived, they found hundreds of people stranded on the exposed hull, descending one by one down a single rope ladder. Against all odds, no one fell. Rescue continued through the night. One person was notably absent, Captain Schettino. He had already made his way ashore. When ordered by the Coast Guard to return to the ship, he refused. Instead, he left the scene entirely, later stopping to buy dry socks before retreating to a hotel. Search operations continued for days. Miraculously, some survivors were found alive long after hope had faded, including a newlywed couple trapped in their cabin, and a hotel manager who survived by clinging to a wall above rising water. In total, 32 people lost their lives. The wreck remained visible off Giglio's coast for months, a haunting reminder of the tragedy. Eventually, the ship was raised, towed away, and dismantled. While the cruise company avoided criminal conviction, Captain Francesco Schettino did not. Found guilty of negligence and abandoning ship, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison. His attempt to impress had instead created one of the most infamous maritime disasters of the modern era.